First quarter results will be pivotal for the European market after 2 quarters of misses and negative revisions. So what do we watch out for? Bloomberg's Tim Craighead joining us this morning from Bloomberg Intelligence. Tim, equity markets, they're not far off those record highs. Talk to us about what we're watching here. What's the game changer?
Well, I tell you, you hit the nail on the head with your introduction. You've got near record highs. You've got valuation that's lifted on central bank pivot sentiment. At the same time, you've had a couple of quarters of essentially negative earnings coming through. So this reporting period, I think, is particularly notable. We've got a strategy note out this morning, and we've put out a new note focusing on a handful of key companies that we think are make or break during the season.
Tim, you've highlighted 10 stocks that we should be watching out for. Why these 10 stocks, and which ones are they?
Yeah, so I think the idea here is to try to bucket a handful of ideas playing through to underlying key themes. So you think in technology and innovation, you've got names like ASML and Novo Nordisk. In the world of China, which we've hit on quite a lot being important for Europe, you've got Porsche, you've got HSBC, you've got LVMH. The world of energy transition, I think, is going to show some important points with something like Vestas, as well as what the big oil companies like Shell are going to be talking about in their analyst calls. So there are a handful of these.
Well, Tim, a lot of the names that you just pointed out are also on Guy's Sensational Six, and it brings me to wonder how much of this is a large cap versus small cap story.
Well, I think the European markets broadly, have been a large cap story. All of these companies, by and large, are large cap bellwethers that I think are going to be, crucial from the standpoint of divining what's going on with these underlying trends. When we have the opportunity to look ahead, whether it's second half of this year or in 2025, with economic recovery, stabilization, earnings coming back into vogue, that's when I think you've got an opportunity to think about small caps.
Okay, so let's think about small caps. How do we think about small caps? Is that where we've talked a lot about the European catch-up trade, and we're starting to see that being enacted? To what extent, what's the beta on that small cap catch-up trade? Well, that's hard to say on a Monday morning.
Well, Guy, I think you will need domestic recovery across Europe to drive the small caps. That's where you've got exposure to local retail, local home building, local industrial. I tell you, I'll throw a monkey wrench in your question and say, if I'm thinking about the next 3 to 6 months, given what's transpiring right now with commodity prices ticking up, with the likelihood of the Bank of England acting before the Fed, interesting note out from Bloomberg Economics on that this morning, which could bring the pound under a bit of pressure. You've got the UK that actually could be a pretty interesting haven, if not, positive return market relative to the rest of Europe that, could be very interesting to take a look at.
Certainly one we're going to be watching very closely. Tim Craighead from Bloomberg Intelligence, we thank you so much.